I'm Gary Livingood. Excuse me. This is October the 12th, 2019. I'm about to interview Doug Starliper relative to his experiences in the military. I'm at the Community Media Center in Westminster, Maryland. Doug, welcome to the CMC, and could you give me a little bit of history about yourself and your experiences in the military?
Okay. I did what a lot of people do who join the military, got out of high school, tried 1 year of college, and was unsuccessful at that. And it was a military school, so I'm used to the background and the structure, so I decided to enlist in the Army. And off I went in May of 2001, to which I graduated basic training and advanced individual training, or what we call AIT, on September the 5th, 2001. And that was 6 days before September 11th. So throughout my in between 14 and 15 year career in the service, I was a pretty busy man between both theaters of operation in Afghanistan and Iraq.
And your MOS?
My MOS was 13 Bravo, which is a cannon crew member in the branch of field artillery.
And now, are you a resident of Carroll County?
I am. I was a resident of Howard County upon leaving, but after getting discharged from the service, my folks had moved out here. And upon moving back to Maryland, I resided here as well. And
now maybe I missed it, but what caused you to join the military?
It was just something that was there when I needed it. It was a structure that I was used to through the military academy that I was in. It was very military oriented with, marching and drilling and just the structure of life that we had there. So it was something that I was used to. They had a leadership, a chain of command. So I guess in a weird way, it was comforting to go join that. Basic training wasn't as fun as, everybody makes it out to be, but I was used to that kind of structure, yes.
Where did you take your basic?
Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
And your AIT?
Fort Sill, Oklahoma. It was called OSIT, or One Station Unit Training, which is basic training and AIT combined together. It was basically 14 weeks in the same squad bay, in the same bed with the same drill sergeants. So.
Okay, and when did you arrive in?
May of 2001.
In Afghanistan?
Oh, Afghanistan. We were there August of 2002 is when we got there.
Okay, and could you describe your feelings and maybe some experiences while you were there?
It was kind of new, obviously, because it wasn't just my first time deploying with a unit that, that a kid would get to today who's been deployed. It's like maybe somebody else's second or third time, and my first, it was everybody's first time, because we hadn't experienced a combat operation since Operation Desert Storm and Desert Shield, and that was early 90s. So all of us were we were new to it, but we were in a rapid deploying unit. We were part of 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 82nd Airborne Division. So we were used to training. We have a brigade on standby to deploy at a moment's notice at any time, so we are constantly training in case we are getting ready to go wheels up with a parachute on our back to jump into combat. So what you had was a mixture of, newness and a little bit of fear with a lot of hunger to get over there and, do what we trained to do. A lot of guys we're the ones that like to go and do that kind of stuff. So we were excited, yet a little bit apprehensive as to not know what to expect.
And prior to Afghanistan, you were in Iraq?
No.
No?
I was in Afghanistan by 2002. We didn't get into Iraq until 2003.
I see. And could you describe maybe the differences between those theaters of operation between Afghanistan and Iraq?
Afghanistan was, as far as geography-wise, completely different with the terrain layout. A lot of people hear Iraq and Afghanistan and they think that they're both like the desert out in the middle of nowhere. Afghanistan is like where we were. It was equivalent to the Rockies. The Hindu Kush Mountains up there, incredibly high. I'm trying to think of it as in terms of feet. I know we're up near 6,000 meters up in elevation and conducting a lot of operations there, whereas in Iraq we were on flat ground, closer to sea level. I'll say that the deployment to Afghanistan somehow kind of built us up for the deployment to Iraq. It wasn't like a training thing where we went and, trained up to go to Iraq, obviously, but it was better than just being thrown into Iraq because Iraq was completely different. When we got there, there were still units pushing from Kuwait into Iraq, so it was still a new war. And it was kind of transitioning from the force-on-force, uniform-on-uniform to the insurgency that we just got out of. So, yeah, it was different in that way, where in Afghanistan, we weren't really fighting a uniformed military, we were fighting an insurgency, and then in Iraq, we came in and fought an actual army. And a uniform, we know who we're fighting because they're wearing uniforms like we are. And that quickly turned into a counterinsurgency, which is, them blending in with the population, them wearing civilian clothes, the IEDs, the secretive attacks on us, and, yeah, that's what was different about that.
In Iraq, that was more house-to-house type?
Yes, we were, our area of operation, which is our specific little area inside of the bigger theater, was probably 3 or 4 small towns. And I, for the life of me, probably can't remember the name of all of them, but they were like you see on TV with the power lines dangling everywhere in the area, the houses stacked on top of each other, and just trash all over the ground, and kind of like a slummy area. And it was all the cities we were around and operating in looked like that. Yes, a lot of houses, a lot of urban.
Did I hear you say that you were in the military for 15 years?
Roughly, yes, 14 to 15.
And when you left, what was your rank?
Staff sergeant.
Staff?
Correct.
And have you maintained any relationships subsequent to leaving the military with anybody that you had served with?
Yeah. The thing is it's easier to do that nowadays with the coming of social media. Because you don't have to pick up a phone and call somebody. You can have them right there in your face, so that's kind of easy to do. But it's easy to lose touch with people in the military because, time in a unit is usually so transient that you get used to, I'm going to go and serve with this person and conduct probably some pretty dangerous things with them, but I'm also okay leaving them because I'm used to moving around from this post to this post to this post. But there are always, I was told before I moved the first time, that there are always certain ones that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And that is definitely proven to be true. And I've also met other veterans that didn't really need to serve with me in order to feel that connection with. And experience the same kind of camaraderie with. It's kind of just like we know each other, we know where we've been, and it's that automatic connection.
What are you engaged in currently upon leaving the military? I'm
really glad you asked that. I am currently involved in a ministry through our church that is, it's part of the Celebrate Recovery ministry that is kind of a recovery group in a church, and it deals with, everybody hears that and they think alcohol or drugs, but it deals with everything from depression to anxiety to divorce to whatever. And the founder of that thought that it would be a good opportunity to come up with some kind of recovery group for veterans, and it's called Welcome Home. And the idea here is that the PTSD and the combat stress is kind of lower on the scale of what our problems are than we thought, and the 2 number 1 offenders of this mental health and suicide epidemic that we're experiencing is the taking off of the uniform and a loss of camaraderie and a sense of purpose and a loss of brotherhood and sisterhood. Because whatever these soldiers, Marines, airmen have done, whether it has been like the worst detail you could be on or the highest point of your military career, you did it with a group of people around you and you were all wearing the same uniform. So when you take that off, you feel like you lose that. And you have a 20 to 30-something-year-old person who says the most important thing I've ever done in my life is now in my rearview mirror, and they see nothing in front of them. So what we do is we exist to kind of get together once a week to kind of chat about our week. How are we doing? You know, to experience that camaraderie, that togetherness, that, you know, if you need anything, you can pick up a phone and be in touch with me. And I'm not just a psychologist or a social worker telling you, you know, you can talk to me. I'm the person that was wearing the same uniform you were. I'm your brother, your sister, and it works very well. Kind of sadly and kind of neat, we are the only ones in Maryland. It's kind of neat to be able to say we're the only ones in Maryland, but if the program worked the way it should, I wish that there were a lot more out there and the veterans were getting in there. So.
And you say the name of this group is Welcome Home?
Welcome Home. It's through the Celebrate Recovery program, yes.
And where's the church located?
It is located exactly at 1701 Emory Road in Reisterstown. It's Life Point Church, and they meet on Thursday nights at 7 p.m.
And how large of a group?
Right now, it varies between about 4 to 6 different veterans that come in throughout the week. We have had a total coming and going. People move, people relocate. Probably we've seen about 20 different veterans come through there from all different styles. One of my friends that just moved to Florida and no longer attends was in the Special Forces for 20 years and then the CIA for 20 more. We have Army reservists. We have we've seen a couple Marines and mostly Army though. So.
Well, you know, I do have to commend you for your involvement in that entity, and that's extremely important.
It is, and it kind of mirrors what I'm doing in my college right now as well. As I'm using the GI Bill to go back to college and get a master's degree in social work, clinical social work, in order to be a mental health counselor for the VA. Because my goal there is to have some young person come into my office, and instead of them meeting face to face with somebody who's never been with them to say, I'm here to fix you, I can say, come in, let's chat. I've got a degree in mental health counseling and I've been where you've been, so feel comfortable talking to me. So my, I guess, livelihood right now is geared towards this problem with suicide, because I've lost more friends to suicide than I have in combat. So.
And it's that experience which has driven you to what you're currently involved in?
100%.
What is the suicide rate at the current time?
The current suicide rate is, it may have dwindled down 1 or 2, I'm not 100% sure, but the number you most often hear is 22 veterans per day. And that is, you know, people hear veterans and they think people who are on active duty. That's widespread from Vietnam veterans all the way up to the youngest private who is enlisting today. But the general number you hear most of the time, which is probably hard to measure and keep a constant, you know, metric on, is 22 per day.
That's a outstanding number.
It's almost 1 per hour, yes.
Yeah, that's. Had you had any feelings about getting into the mental health field prior to your experiences in the military?
No, absolutely not. No. I didn't know. I call myself a late bloomer. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, you know, that's probably why I joined the military in the first place. Upon getting out of the military, I got a job driving a forklift and packing books and for Penguin Random House right down the street. It was a great job with great benefits, and one day, and this may be some kind of divine intervention, I don't know, I was just driving my forklift doing my job, and it hit me that this isn't what I want to do with the rest of my life. What could I possibly do? And that's when this plan just came to my mind. And I'm a somewhat of a spiritual person, and I believe that this is no kind of plan that I could ever think of on my own, because the way that this has worked out has been out of my hands. I have a GI Bill that's paying for 4 years of college, and I'm coming in as a sophomore, so there's 3 years to my undergrad, and since our social work program is accredited, we offer a 1-year accelerated advanced standing master's program. So there's my 4th year of my GI Bill right there, completely taken care of. It's things like that I can't explain. You know, meeting with a graduate school admissions director from Maryland, saying that instead of looking for a GPA and metrics on a report card, they're looking for some kind of story as to what connects you to the population you want to help. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And it's things like that that, you know, that put these ideas in motion in my head. Makes me feel like I'm on the right track and what I'm called to do. And hopefully one day help that number go down.
It's very commendable. A little on the lighter side, between Afghanistan and Iraq and the foodstuffs that you consumed, same type of meals, or?
It depends. When we first got to Afghanistan, we were eating MREs, and there's a lot of different variety there, but it all kind of tastes the same with the level of, you know, how bland it is. But you know, it's not meant to taste good. It's meant to get you the nutrients and the calories you need in order to keep you up and going. Especially if you're, you know, rationed out one a day, which we were never in that kind of a dire need. But should you be, one a day can sustain you through what you need to do. But after a while, we had some cooks as one of our assets. So we went from MREs to, I can't remember which one's worse, T rations or A rations. I want to say T rations. And we went to them, and it was the, you know, green eggs and ham, like literally green eggs. And it's a T ration is basically just a much larger MRE that they throw into boiling water. It's in a bag, and they serve it that way. It's definitely not the best, but I want to say halfway through Iraq, my second deployment, we bumped it up to the A rations and had our mobile kitchen tents, or MKTs, established on our bases. We were never, as an artillery unit, on the main base. We were always an offshoot. We built our own fire base. So we were pretty self-reliant, but a lot of times we would go up to the forward operating base and pick up the mermites, the big plastic things with the pans in them. So that was a lot better. And then, as funny as it may sound, the food opinions of the soldiers it's kind of a force multiplier. It motivates them. It gives them, when they have barely anything over there, but, you know, the people they're with in a mission, a sense of, you know, a morale booster. So food can go a long way over there. It's not a silly question.
So you have your next 3 years planned out for you.
Absolutely.
And what is your aspiration or your hope, the end game, so to speak, for you?
Just to make a difference. I'm not going at this with the mindset that I'm going to solve the problem we have, and it's all going to be on my shoulders and my job to take care of it. I'm getting into this to when, you know, it comes time for me to get into my career and retire from my career, to have just made some sort of a difference. You know, I'm not looking to get out there and save lives. That would be great. That would be, you know, number one. But if I can just keep one person from, you know, having any kind of self-harm thoughts, or isolating, or picking up a bottle or a drug for one day, then that's the goal. And just take it one day at a time. And the next day wake up and try to do the same thing over again.
And the VA out of Martinsburg addresses this particular situation directly on the telephones if you call.
Yeah, I think all of them do. That if this is a case of emergency suicide, hang up and dial this number immediately.
Okay. What was the weather like between the two entities, between Afghanistan and Iraq?
Afghanistan was, it was dependent on where you were. You know, at one point we thought we were really high up in the mountains and kind of had it bad and was really cold, and then we got on a helicopter and flew to a higher elevation, and we could feel the temperature change on the aircraft. So it was very, very, it was variable in Afghanistan, depending on where you were. If you were down south in Kandahar, where there is a lot of desert type environment, it's a lot warmer, to where if you're farther northeast towards the Pakistan border, and Bagram is up there and Salerno's up there, it gets a little colder and a little different, a little harder to breathe. A lot of snow. It snowed a lot. There was a lot of ice. One of my deployments, I didn't see the ground the entire time I was there before the snow that was on it. Of course, that was only 90 days. That was my third deployment to Afghanistan. I'm sorry, second to Afghanistan, third deployment. But Iraq, I was only there once. It rained a lot, from what I remember. It rained a whole lot. And that's about the only difference. It was warm. Iraq was very, very hot. So, but not as hot as Kuwait when we landed. But that whole area in the Middle East down there in Iraq and in the Kuwait area was incredibly hot.
Now, you have family here in the area?
I do, yes. My father, my twin brother, and my sister are all from here.
Okay, and do you happen to be married?
No, I'm not.
Okay. What other types of things would you like to talk about relative to your time in service and even prior or subsequent?
I don't know, if somebody were to hear what I'm saying, that is in a spot that there are resources out there, and I guess the biggest number one thing that I talked about was the idea that the most important thing you've done is behind you, and that doesn't have to be the case. Getting out of the Army was, I kind of had this idea that, okay, that was it. I did this. I got my disability, and they're going to pay me this for the rest of my life, and that's that. Until I discovered this whole GI Bill thing, and there's a whole other world with that. And these veterans have earned that, and to get out there, and if they think they can do it, go out there and use it. It's a resource, and you can get a college education debt-free and get right into a career making the money you're making without having to worry about this mountain of college debt. You can get out there and do it. If that's not what you want to do, you can now use the GI Bill to go to a trade school and become a plumber, an electrician, a mechanic, very hands-on, and it kind of is established in a way to where when you get your DD Form 214 and you leave that gate for the last time, that's not it. You're still reaping some benefits. And it doesn't have to be medical benefits or some kind of disability check at the end of the month. It can be an educational benefit, and it can be used for so many things that can just better your life, and just to remember that on another hand, just the biggest killers out there are the isolation and probably substance abuse. Keep in touch with people, and don't try to battle your entire problem in one day. Take it one day at a time, one chunk at a time. And there are people out there that generally and sincerely want to help, and use them. And keep in touch. Number one is pick up that phone. In our recovery groups that we're in, we call the phone the 1,000-pound phone, because in a time where you need it, that phone weighs a lot and it's hard to pick up sometimes, but it will make a world of difference when you pick that phone up and you get in touch with who you need to get in touch with, be it a friend, a sponsor in the program, an accountability partner, or just somebody you used to serve with, and they don't have to be right next to you. They can be states away. You have social media, you have phones, you get in touch with that person and talk with them, and it makes a world of difference. It really does. And if you're not that person that needs to pick up that phone and call somebody, be that person that will pick up the phone and answer it when somebody's calling you.
Well, it appears that the military has advanced dramatically since World War II, Korea, Vietnam, etc., relative to the types of assistance that they give the vets. At least that would be my observation, because I'm seeing that the veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq and others are much more in tune with what you're talking about now, as opposed to maybe during the Vietnam era and such as that. Is that an accurate observation, or?
I would say so. I would say as far as the problems that existed, there's not much difference. I would say that the environment is completely different. The way we go about handling it is very different. The World War II and Vietnam era was a very pull yourself up by your own bootstraps kind of era. and it wasn't looked highly upon to raise your hand as a white flag and say, something's not right here, I need help. And the problem is that's still an issue in the service. You have active duty members that are still experiencing problems that won't raise their hand because I have friends that are in now that see what I'm doing and they say I need help, but I can't bring it up because it's a career killer. You know, but anyway, back to your question, the environments are different. Back then, people were apprehensive to ask for help or raise their hand because of that. Today, they make it known that the help is there. They make it known that there are outlets that are there to help them. They make it known that we realize there's a problem going on, and no matter how, you know, manly or macho your service was, you know, one of the hardest things to do is to raise your hand and say, I need help. I need to tap out for a second. I need to, you know, pause everything and talk to somebody. Because doing that is, you know, it takes as much courage as standing guard with a rifle or going outside the wire on a dismounted foot patrol. It takes as much courage to raise your hand and say, I need help. I need a break. So there's acceptance now in this environment that there wasn't back then, I think. And that's just my hypothesis. It doesn't mean I'm right.
Well, Doug, I do certainly appreciate what you've had to say here today and the direction that you're headed and the commitment that you have. Is there anything else that you would like to add in this interview?
Just that I also, on the other hand, appreciate the opportunity to come out here and the willingness for you guys to conduct this sort of interview to get the word out there. And if somebody out there maybe hears or sees of this interview and it strikes a nerve that, you know, maybe you do need to raise that hand up, by all means, raise that hand up. You know, there's absolutely no shame in admitting that you need some help. You know, I've got 4 combat deployments under me. I used to jump out of airplanes for a living. I used to consider myself 10 feet tall and bulletproof, but, you know, if you need help, it takes just as much courage as it does to leap out of that aircraft with the hope that your parachute will open, and somebody will be there to answer the phone for you. So,
well, again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.